Great. I think you should all be able to see that.
Yes,
Thumbs up,
Yes.
head nod, yep, cool.
correct,
All right,
sir.
thanks, Vince. Appreciate that. Um, let's see, we'll jump right into it. Trust for Public Land not only conserves land, but helps connect people to the outdoors so they can celebrate the joys and the benefits of outdoor experiences. From trails to parks, the work TPL does helps people connect with the beauty and diversity of natural landscapes, encouraging a lifestyle that values and protects our planet. We're committed to preserving and expanding public access to significant natural and historic sites across the country, from urban neighborhoods to iconic national parks. Through strategic conservation efforts, we protect vital ecosystems, ensure recreational access, and honor cultural heritage, creating lasting benefits for communities and the environment. Whether it's MLK's Junior's Childhood Neighborhood, the largest expansion of Yosemite National Park in decades, securing recreational access in Zion, or protecting the sensitive coastline of Oahu, TPL seeks out unique and challenging and rewarding conservation opportunities. We often take on projects that no one else will, and we're immensely proud of all the hard work that it takes and the community support to finish these projects and bring them to fruition. We've completed thousands of projects throughout the country. TPL is a national organization, but our roots are in California. Since 1973, protecting O'Melveny Park in Los Angeles as our first land protection acquisition. Trust for Public Land has been dedicated to creating accessible green spaces for communities throughout California, and in particular in Southern California. Over the years in California, we've expanded access to parks and nature, bringing 1.2 million people within a 10-minute walk of a park, or about a half mile, which promotes outdoor recreation and gives people access to beautiful places and natural spaces. So a little bit of just an overview of what we've accomplished in California. We've completed 86 park projects, 736 land protection projects. Over 500,000 acres of open space have been protected. We've created 25 miles of coastline for public enjoyment or protected. We planted over 7,500 trees and captured 25 million gallons of stormwater. Our work is squarely driven by community needs. The picture in this slide is from Kellogg Park in the west end of the city of Ventura. I can't see everyone on the presentation, but I would ask for a show of hands to see if anyone's been there, or a head nod. I imagine many of you have been there, especially if you have young kids. Kellogg Park is a multi-generational park that supports health, inclusivity, and community pride. It has amenities like playground, fitness area, community garden, picnic benches, many native plantings. These characteristics reflect the neighborhood's unique character. As we built this park, we did extensive community engagement, and the features that you see at this park today are the features that the community asked for and wanted. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend it. It's a gorgeous space. So what do we know, or as I like to say it, why do we do this work? We know that healthy and livable communities are at risk. Our communities are facing a crisis as climate change intensifies, local heat and extreme weather are more frequent, while rapid development threatens access to the outdoors. The surge in outdoor activity since the pandemic, sometimes referred to as the hug of death, combined with cuts to city park budgets, has left essential outdoor areas at risk, reducing the quality and quantity of outdoor spaces. Over the last 2 years, an estimated $800 million has been cut from city park and rec budgets throughout the country. We also know that people flourish on public soil. Being outdoors is a shortcut to happiness. Nature restores and refreshes us. More and more people are realizing this, and it's something that I'm sure many of you have known for a long time. We believe connecting with nature isn't just a nice thing, it is necessary to a healthy human experience. With that said, public land is disappearing to the tune of about 6,000 acres per day, a really staggering amount. In a rapidly developing world, protecting land is essential not only for preserving natural beauty, but for sustaining ecosystems, wildlife, cultural heritage, and climate resilience. Each, each piece of land that's saved is an investment in a healthier, more sustainable future, providing lasting value that goes beyond economic gains. As stewards of these spaces, we have a responsibility to ensure that natural resources and open spaces are available for generations to come. This responsibility is fundamental to the human experience and something that can connect all of us to each other. What do we do? Well, our work at the Trust for Public Land is driven by our 4 commitments. Our work improves community health by creating access to nature and recreation. We promote equitable access to green spaces for all, focusing on communities that need the most help. Our work enhances climate resilience and environmental sustainability, and our work fosters social connections and community pride. We bring these 4 commitments to life through our 4 initiatives. Our land initiative protects essential natural areas to boost health, equity, climate, and community resilience. Our trails initiative increases connectivity to nature, supporting health and community access. Our parks initiative creates inclusive, climate-friendly parks that benefit community health and equity. Our schoolyard initiative turns asphalt schoolyards into shared green spaces that promote health, equity, and climate resilience for students and neighborhoods. Today, we have Alex on this call. He's our Southern California lead on the Land Protect side, and is going to focus more on our land initiative work, particularly in Ventura County. But we're happy to discuss our other initiatives down the road, and our email and phone numbers are at the slide at the end, and would be happy if any of you reached out to discuss this work in more detail. But from here, I'll pass it over to Alex.
All right, thanks, Adam.
You're welcome.
We can go to the next slide. So yeah, we're going to focus mostly on our land initiative, and that's the program that I oversee in Southern California. So our Southern California region just quickly runs roughly from Santa Barbara County all the way down to the US-Mexico border, and then out to the Colorado River. So it does include the Mojave Desert, the Southern Sierras, and the entire, of course, South Coast. But this is really our bread and butter. This is what most people think of when they think about the Trust for Public Land. I always get the question of, I thought you guys only did urban projects, or some folks say, I thought you only did like wild, properties and National Park Service projects. And the truth is we do everything in between. And yes, including Kellogg Park, which thank you, Adam, for talking about that. So we'll do projects like Kellogg Park, but we'll also do projects like Rancho Cañada Larga. This slide's a little outdated. I think we're over 4 million acres nationwide that we've protected, and at a cost of over $8 billion in our 51-year history. And that work really entails working on the ground with private landowners to get their properties under contract, do all the due diligence that you would see in a normal real estate transaction, but also fundraise from multiple sources. And those could be public sources, those could be private sources, whatever it takes to get the job done. And then, of course, our goal is to close on those properties and put them into public ownership, either through a public agency or transfer to a local land trust. And of course, I saw Daniel from VLT join, and just a shout out to him and the good folks at VLT and the good work that they do. Without land trusts, we would not be where we are today, certainly with our success. So I just want to recognize the hundreds, actually thousands of land trusts that there are nationwide. You can go to the next slide. In Southern California, unless I can control that, Adam, do I have control of that?
I'm not sure, to be honest, but I'm happy
Okay,
to do it.
very, very good.
Yeah.
So, in Southern California, of course, we've been working here for 51 years. As Adam mentioned, our first project was in B Canyon in LA. And so you can see on this map in green, these are all the completed projects that we've done over the 51-year history. And in purple are our kind of, more urban centric park development projects that we've completed as well. So we've been doing work in this space for, 51 years, but when we talk about climate resiliency, we talk about a focus on climate conservation. This area, what is known as the transverse range, is really where we're going to focus our attention over the next, gosh, 30, 40, 50 years. So it's an interesting shape, but and the reason it's an interesting shape is it really follows kind of the South Coast missing linkages plan that some of you all are probably well aware of. But this is a 6-county region going from Santa Barbara all the way out to San Bernardino in the desert, and all the counties in between. And our goal really is, when people ask me as the Southern California Land Protection Director, what areas are you going to focus in for climate resiliency? We're going to show this map. Doesn't mean we can't do projects outside of this area, but this is going to be our focus area over the next, again, 30 to 50 years. And the goal really is to protect land in the kind of disparate areas. Probably the biggest one is east of Santa Clarita, where you can see, I don't know if you guys can make it out, but the Angeles Linkage Project, which actually we just closed a couple of weeks ago, a major gap between the larger national forests, of course, in this area. So Angeles National Forest in that regard. And so to kind of close those gaps for wildlife, wildlife corridors, but also to buttress this area. I mean, this is the largest landscape scale conservation area really that there is in Southern California. So we'd like to buttress the protected lands as much as possible. And typically that means buying land in high fire severity areas. We don't control zoning. We don't control, planning overlays or development permits, but we do have the ability to go in and acquire, frankly, at-risk lands like Rancho Cañada Larga. Our work here will be climate focused. It also be focused on underserved and frankly overlooked communities. And it'll also focus on our tribal engagement work. We've had a tribal program here, the Trust for Public Land, for decades, actually. And so that work continues, especially in this focus area. Go to the next slide, and we'll start to jump into some of our projects. The first one being Deer Creek Beach. This is a spectacular property. You guys may know it as the Mansdorf property that was being looked at for, I think the phrase that was used earlier was the McMansions or the mega mansions, and that was certainly what this property was going to turn into. Mr. Mansdorf, Harry Mansdorf, was actually going to develop this entire property shown here in orange, just east of Point Mugu State Park. And he was also going to develop a marina, if you can believe that. This is many, many years ago, and thankfully the property got caught up in litigation. And once that litigation was resolved, we pounced on this property and we bought it almost exactly 2 years ago. $25 million. We put it on the credit card. This was just such an important project. We've been monitoring it for over 2 decades. We couldn't pass it up, so we actually bought this property and are seeking to convey it to the National Park Service as the largest addition to the the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area in its history. In terms of just numbers, it's over 1,200 acres. It's about 2.1 miles of coastline. Some of that is actual beach. Some of it is riprap, but some of it's actual beach, which you saw in the previous photo. But it's within a major wildlife corridor. The National Park Service has tracked mountain lions all over, of course, the Santa Monica Mountains, including on this property. And so we are seeking to convey this property to the National Park Service by the end of the calendar year. And we will need all the luck we can get. It has been a long haul. We are almost there. The money is there, but we are going through some last minute kind of due diligence items. But ultimately, with this property in National Park Service's hands, it'll lead the way for the coastal slope trail to go through a portion of the property. Most of the property will be left as open space. There'll be some restoration efforts, but the big public access component will be through the coastal slope trail through the property. So again, a big project on our portfolio, and looking forward to getting it done by the end of the calendar year. Adam, yeah, you want to go ahead and show the video? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Trust for Public Land has a very simple mission. We want to connect everyone to the great outdoors. I'm at Deer Creek Beach, just north of Malibu and right next to Point Mugu State Park. This is 1,200 acres of pristine coastal hillside property in Ventura County in California.
Deer Creek Beach is the largest remaining unprotected piece of habitat between the Mexican border and at least Santa Barbara.
Now I'm listening for adult female mountain lion P99. She was just up over the ridge here at 5 a.m. this morning. You know, the past 20 years, we've been following mountain lions in the area. We've tracked a number of lions that have traveled right through this area. Now we can access lands we previously have not been able to, especially when half of the mountains in the Santa Monica Mountains are privately owned.
This really represents what the Trust for Public Land does to try to expand public access by looking at private property like this, purchasing it, working with our partners in government, and putting it into the hands of the public, in this case, the National Park Service.
The coastline of the Santa Monica Mountains is extremely popular with the public. Our trailheads are usually packed on weekends, the beach accesses as well. The public has shown us that they want these opportunities, and we're hoping that this property can give them access both to the coast, but also to the hillsides and a chance to get outdoors.
We can really create an exciting destination for nearly 8 million Californians who live within 1 hour drive to this property. You can go swimming in the ocean, you can go hiking, you can backpack through the property. It really is an incredible place. It's for biodiversity, it's for public access, it is for wildlife connectivity, and at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun.
Thanks, Adam. I hadn't seen that video, so it's nice to see. Some of you may recognize David Szymanski. He is no longer the superintendent over there at Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. He has been promoted. I think he's up now in the superintendent of the Pacific region. So I'm sorry to lose him from the Santa Monica Mountains, but also really happy for him. So we'll move on to the Crooked Palm property. This is also known as the Petrochem property on the Ventura River. Obviously, it doesn't look like this anymore, but you guys may remember that it looked like this a number of years ago. This is a project we're partnering with the Ventura Land Trust on, and I'm not a California native, but when I came out to California 12, 13 years ago, this was the biggest priority on the Ventura River. And we are excited to actually have the opportunity to acquire it. This is a 1/4 mile on the Ventura River. It's the old petrochemical plant. Actually, they're producing agricultural fertilizers on the site. Yeah, USA oil refinery. Absolutely, it's gone through the ringer. But a group out of Indiana came in and bought it. A little over 5 years ago. Their job was to remediate the site and flip it to a light industrial buyer. That does not, well, I guess the first part of that has worked out. The second part has not. So we've kind of jumped in and are looking to acquire the entirety of the site. and then stick with the land, with the Ventura Land Trust, through any additional remediation that would be needed to make it safe and open to the public, as well as, public outreach, community investment into the site. Try to really figure out what the site, what the community would like to see on the property, and frankly, what is safe to use, how the property is safe to use. We're just north of this property is, of course, the Brooks campus owned by Patagonia, and just north of that is the Ventura Parkway Preserve. We bought that property a number of years ago and donated it to the Ojai Valley Land Conservancy, and we've continued to partner with OVLC on that site. That's up here in green. If you can point that out, Adam. I don't know if folks can see my cursor, but that site is a little further south. Yeah, that guy. So that's a 28-acre property now in the hands of OVLC, and like I said, we've continued to partner with the group. We've received a $300,000 grant from NIFWF, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, to conduct the community outreach and some of the kind of early planning for that property. But ultimately, that property will be completely restored to hold some floodwaters, and also for kind of riparian, transitional, and upland habitat restoration. Both of these properties, both the Parkway Preserve property and what we now call the Crooked Palm property, the petrochem site, flood from not just the Ventura River, but also Quinata Larga Creek. And so we've just recently found out that, it takes like a 25-year storm for Quinata Larga Creek to overflow its banks, but it used to really go, right where Highway 33 is, and flow over these properties to get to the river. And so that's not typically how it flows on a normal storm event, but on a 25-year storm on up, it will overflow its banks, go under 33, go over the Parkway Preserve property, kind of inundate the Brooks campus and portions of the Crooked Palm property. So we'd like to mitigate that flooding as much as possible, while of course opening these properties up for public enjoyment. And I don't need to tell you guys this, but of course the Ventura River Trail runs right through both of these sites. So I think this is really kind of the implementation of the Lower Ventura River Parkway Plan, which the Trust for Public Land and the Coastal Conservancy worked on back in 2008. It's taken really this many years to find the funding for these types of acquisitions. And just on that note, the last election here in California, just last week, voters approved the climate bond. This was Proposition 4 on your ballot. The largest climate bond in California history was $10 billion. And that money will go directly into these types of projects. And some of those that we're going to talk about in a moment. But in terms of acquisition, in terms of restoration, in terms of planning, that's where that money is going to go. So hats off to the citizenry of California for approving that bond. It's going to, complete some of this work over the next, 5 to 7 years. Adam, we'll go to the next project, which I believe is Sexton Canyon, and you can go to the next slide. Sexton Canyon is a conservation easement project. This is just south of the Ventura oil field. You can see it on your map, on the south side of your map there, directly adjacent to some of the Ventura Land Trust lands, Harmon Canyon in particular. This is a ranch. It's a farm. It's all the above. And we see an opportunity to make sure it doesn't become a residential subdivision in the future. Obviously, there are properties directly to the west and east that have been developed in the past. While the property is, more or less protected by SOAR, we would like to see this property protected with a conservation easement, and hopefully in the future, if the landowner is up for it, buy fee title to the property as an extension of the adjacent conservation lands. We also see just a connection from this property to Harmon Canyon over to probably Rancho Quinata Larga, and then all the way north through the Boy Scouts property, which is currently for sale, and Black Mountain Ranch, which, gosh, has been for sale for a long time. Love to get our hands on those. But for the time being, we're focused on, the Crooked Palm property, Sexton Canyon, and then Rancho Quinata Larga, which we'll get into, I believe, next. So Yeah, thanks, Adam. Um, so you guys probably know the background here. Rancho Cañada Larga, almost 6,500 acres, part of actually two Spanish land grants, and one of the largest coastal ranches that is available or still available and not protected in Southern California. I've been working on this one since, 2017. And happy to say that we finally have it under contract, and are very excited about this opportunity, not just from the ecological benefits, but from the public access benefits, wildlife connectivity, climate resiliency, wildfire resiliency standpoints. One of the cooler aspects, Cañada Larga Creek and some of its tributaries on this property are designated critical habitat for southern steelhead. Why is that? Well, what happens on Cañada Larga, Rancho Cañada Larga, absolutely impacts the Ventura River. And, the property and the lands just to the east represent a sub-watershed of the Ventura River. So if you have, frankly, unfettered cattle grazing on the property, you're going to get kind of hot and dirty water going into the Ventura River, which is exactly the opposite of what we want. We want cold, clean water entering the Ventura River to invite steelhead back into the river. And so one of the big priorities with the acquisition of Rancho Cañada Larga is, of course, protecting it, but also restoring Cañada Larga Creek, which means, frankly, getting the cattle out of the creek, finding a different water source for them, and then doing a massive restoration project through the creek, which is, 4.5, 5 miles of the creek. So that's going to take millions of dollars, but that's the challenge that we're up against. And, we'd like to see that through to make sure that that water is shaded, that the cattle aren't going in and eating everything and, creating, all types of erosional effects. Some of the creek banks on Cañada Creek are 30 feet high, if you can believe that. So definitely a opportunity for restoration. On the north side, there's designated critical habitat for red-legged frogs. Obviously down the Ventura River, there's critical habitat for Southwest willow flycatcher. You guys are better at letting me know what kind of birds you've seen on Cañada Larga Road. Obviously, that's a public right of way, so every time I go out there, I see birders checking out the creek. So you guys maybe in the comments let me know what kind of birds you've seen down there. But yeah, I mean, technically, I guess this is condor country. I've never seen a condor out there. It's also like long-eared owl territory, just a lot of raptors, but a lot of course, birds that are using the riparian areas as well. So we are in the throes of this one. The good news is the climate bond passed, and so we do have funding available for the acquisition. But I think we're still going to have a gap. There's only so much money that the state of California can provide to this type of acquisition. So we are still in the midst of fundraising for the acquisition of the site. Last thing I'll mention is that the northern portion of the property does include some of the South Coast missing linkages, Sierra Madre Castaic linkage. And not to say that, animals just stay within the bounds of, that type of linkage. They can probably go throughout the entire property, but the northern portion of the property in particular, with some of those north-facing slopes, has great habitat and more opportunity for wildlife movement, including, of course, black bear, mountain lions, etc., deer, certainly. So I think that might be the end of the presentation, Adam, if you want to go to the next slide.
Yep.
Yeah, just want to say thank you for your attention on our work, in support of our work. Couldn't do this without y'all's help. And, we are very excited, of course, about all the projects, in particular, Rancho Cañada Larga. It took a long time to get that property under contract. And so we are looking forward to hopefully closing in mid-2025 on the property. That's, of course, assuming that we fundraise towards the purchase price. But in any case, that's a little bit about our work in mostly the Ventura River. Of course, we're working throughout Southern California and the rest of California, the rest of the country. But yeah, happy to answer any questions you all may have about this work or about the Trust for Public Land.
Thanks, Alex. And I think I'll just mention, we are very cognizant that the opportunity, especially Rancho Cañada Largo, has presented itself in part because of all the work that folks like you on this call have done to advocate for your vision of what Rancho Cañada Largo could be, and get in front of some of the development opportunities that could have happened. So we're getting close to the finish line here, thanks to all of your work, and we're going to push this thing across as best we can. But yeah, if you have any questions, we'd love to take them now.
Sure. Actually, if somebody has any questions, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute and you can ask the questions. I also want to apologize. I think one of our emails had a bad link for those of you who came in late. If that was the reason, I do apologize. We are recording this and we'll make it available sometime this week or next. But yeah, if you have any questions, raise your hand and we'll unmute you.
Let's see, I do.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to say there's a question in the chat about the funding, and yeah, how the climate bond works is now that it's passed, the money will be doled out to certain state agencies, including our largest partner in California, which is the Wildlife Conservation Board, or WCB. They are going to be the beneficiaries of about $1 billion from the climate bond, and so we have been. We led a campaign to pass the climate bond. We raised about $9 million for the Yes on 4 campaign. And one of the big reasons is, of course, that's a tide that lifts all boats across California. And of course, we have our own projects that we want to get funded by the climate bond. So $1 billion of it will go to the Wildlife Conservation Board. Roughly $1 billion will go to like the State Coastal Conservancy, and then lesser amounts will be distributed to the other conservancies throughout California. But in terms of Rancho Cañada Larga, we have the property under contract for almost $28 million. We've asked the Wildlife Conservation Board for $15 million of that 28 million, and so far they've said okay, but that's not a formal okay. We have a lot of work to do to make sure the project is ready to go and that we have matching funding. The state does not like to be the sole funder of these projects. They like to see us bring in matching funds. We have raised $6 million so far. So if we get $15 million from Wildlife Conservation Board, with the money we've raised so far, we'll have about 21 million. So we're still about $7-8 million short of the purchase price. And so in terms of timing, we are looking to close in late June of 2025. So that would be kind of the drop dead date in terms of timing for the acquisition.
So I have a question regarding, you mentioned Cañada Larga Creek and the restoration. There's a lot of easements, like if you go from basically the confluence all the way back, there's culverts that need to be kind of mitigated, right, to open it up to steelhead. Is that part of the plan, is to get that all kind of steelhead friendly, or the ability for them to migrate up that watershed?
Ultimately, yes. In the near term, no. So a lot of there are a lot of good project ideas that come out of Rancho Cañada Larga, and that is certainly one of them and a main focus. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to restore Cañada Larga Creek on Rancho Cañada Larga if steelhead still can't get to it through the culverts. But right now we are focused on the acquisition of the property, and the restoration, of course, will come post acquisition. And so, yes, ultimately, if we are successful in acquiring Rancho Cañada Larga, the scope of the project will actually be broadened to include other areas. Whether Trust for Public Land is involved in the kind of other necessary restoration to bring steelhead back will be yet to be seen. I'll put it that way. If we can help out, absolutely. But if more local partners are better equipped and better situated to do that work, then we're happy to pass that work on to them. Our bread and butter is really on the acquisition side of the house. And I would say trying to expedite public access to some of these sites. It's sort of that work sometimes overlaps with restoration work as well. But when it comes to, say, working with Caltrans or Ventura County Public Works, I wouldn't say that's our sweet spot. So hopefully that answers the question, but happy to field a second one.
No, that was good. And we had one from Ken Ward, who wants, when you're successful, because I think you'll be successful, what would be then the plan going forward to open it up for hiking and public access and bird trips and things like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Ultimately, there's a lot going on this property. The one item I didn't mention is that we are working with the Barbarengo Ventureño Band of Mission Indians to provide them a cultural easement, which I'm not sure if everyone understands the concept of cultural easement, but it's really an access easement that would allow, it's a real property right that would be transferred to the tribe or their nonprofit affiliated group that would allow access to the property that would not change no matter who owned the property. Of course, we try to do this work in perpetuity, but perpetuity is a long time. So a cultural easement is a property right that the tribe would own. And part of that cultural easement will be to set aside, more sensitive areas on the property. You all may know that there was a Chumash village on this property, which probably means that there are burial grounds on the property. So we need to take that into account well before we allow public access onto the property, or the long-term owner and steward allows public access onto the property. So there will be a kind of a trails master plan that is completed in unison or in cooperation with the tribe. What I foresee is this property really being a rewilding experiment, where of course you would have kind of regenerative grazing happening on the property. You kind of have to have grazing on portions of the property to keep down the non-native grasses. I do see recreation being a part of the ultimate experience on this project or on this property. I could see a trail being designed with Sulphur Mountain Road, which obviously is already open for public access. People come up to the higher elevations and then come down through a trail system. But this will not be a regional park. There won't be active recreation on the site. There won't be ball fields or anything closely resembling that. You'll probably see some multi-use trails, but there are just certain areas that are too sensitive to allow for public access. And so we need to get a better handle on that. And so we're kind of midway through the cultural easement process with the tribe. And once we're done with kind of the legalities, if you will, we'll be walking the property with some of the tribe elders to better understand which areas are really off limits for the public. So I can't give you a timeline. We try not to rush public engagement, and certainly not tribal engagement. The tribe in this case has said that they don't have the capacity to own this property and manage it, but they would like this cultural easement to really get back onto the land, learn about restoration and how to manage this land. Frankly, this tribe has been dispossessed of the land for hundreds of years, and so this really is an opportunity to welcome them back on the property, and again set aside those lands that really need to be protected to the highest extent possible. So I don't have like a firm timeline there, but hopefully you guys understand why.
Yeah, totally. And so I want to kind of transition back to Sexton Canyon. So that's gonna be so the two properties that kind of are, it's now abutting is the Harmon County property and then what's known as the Two Trees property, or the larger, expansive land that, VLT recently acquired. I'm assuming that's gonna be like a linkage between those two parcels.
Yeah, an agricultural conservation. So we're looking to acquire a conservation easement on Sexton Canyon. The landowner was not willing to buy the property. Or sorry, to sell the property in fee. And so he's just willing to sell a conservation easement, which would prevent a lot of different uses, but in particular development beyond what's already there. The one kind of limitation on agricultural conservation easements is that they don't typically provide for public access. Typically these are active farms, and sometimes there's application of pesticides, fertilizers. Sometimes there's cattle ranching going on, and so most of the time agricultural conservation easements don't allow for public access for those types of reasons. There's a liability issue. In this case, the landowner is Rich Atmore. You guys may know of Rich. He has set up his own land trust. He allows for public access on a, I would say, fairly limited basis. He is he would allow, if this project moves forward, he would allow the same type of kind of limited public access onto Sexton Canyon. I don't want to say too much more than that at this point, because we're still looking to get the property, or excuse me, the easement under contract. And so, but just verbally, that's what he's committed to. Again, we won't know for sure until we get the contract signed with Rich, but he has mentioned several times that he would allow for environmental education and public access on the site. Again, not unfettered, but on a more limited basis.
All right, any other questions from anybody? All right, well, with that said, again, guys, I guess, so the next steps for you guys as far is just securing the final leg of funding for the acquisition.
On Rancho Quinana
Exactly.
Larga,
Yeah,
yeah.
Rancho Quinana.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we're up against the finish line here. The community's hard work to discourage development on that property has led to the opportunity for us to get this property under option, and we're confident we're going to raise the money needed to close it, but we do need all the help that we can get.
so I guess then my follow-up would be, is there something that this audience and our membership can do to help? Are there politicos we can contact? Are there representatives that we can contact to kind of see it through? Is there any specific things that you would like our memberships to advocate for?
Well, I think, Alex, please chime in, but I think on the fundraising side, connecting Alex and I to people in the community or across the country that are interested in conservation and conserving this property and want to contribute to help us close it, we would be grateful. I'll put my name and number in the chat, and we'll hope to connect with some of you down the road to help support us in that effort.
Yeah, same. This one's going to take a village. I would just say this, I failed to mention this during the PowerPoint, but in terms of 30 by 30, this project just checks a lot of boxes. Again, the acreage is huge for this region. Sure, you can find a 10,000 acre ranch, in Northern California. But 6,500 is nothing to sneeze at. So in terms of, the acreage, the species are there, the wildlife connectivity, the potential to connect this property to other conservation lands, the tribal piece, It again, it checks a lot of boxes for what the state is looking for. If there's, I think beyond just the financial requests, there's also a request to make sure the politicos, the elected officials, understand the importance of this project. We see a lot. Again, I should have mentioned this earlier, but the Wildlife Conservation Board, if you look at a map of where they fund most of their projects, most of the money is going to Northern California. We need to flip that so more money is coming to Southern California, and what better way than preserve this property that is checking every single box for the 30 by 30 program that the state has signed on to, and the Biden administration has signed on to as well. And so if you have influence there, or even if you just want to write your electeds, please let them know to support the acquisition. And how can they do that? By giving a call to the Wildlife Conservation Board, WCB. You can go to their website. Ultimately, this project will be on one of their agendas in 2025. And so we just want to send that message as early and often as we can that the state needs to support this acquisition. Not just because the funding is lopsided between NorCal and SoCal, but because again, this project is kind of exemplary in terms of what you'd like to see from 30 by 30. So this is why the climate bond, you guys supported the climate bond, and why the citizens of California approved the climate bond. Now the fun work starts, but these are the types of projects that will be funded. We just need to make sure that they're funded in the right way, and that is from the climate bond and through the Wildlife Conservation Board.
Awesome. So what I will do from my perspective is I'll reach out to you, Adam and Alex, for our December newsletter, maybe have a paragraph or two of, kind of summarizing what we've talked about. I'll take some of your words that we've done before, and then I'll send that out in our December newsletter with some emails of our elected representatives to get that going. And we'll keep that up. We'll also put that on our website as far as how our members can take action and people who visit us can take action. We'll also put it on our social. We definitely, we've been wanting this to go on for some time now, and I think it's high time we see it through. So definitely we'll do what we can from the Ventura Audubon Society.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Really
Thank you,
appreciate
Vince.
it.
Yeah, we're grateful. Thank you so much.
Indeed.
And with that, I think we'll close out the program for this evening. So everybody didn't get the beginning of our announcements. The big one is our Dog Rangers program is going to be at Ventura Botanic Gardens this Friday, and our Christmas bird count is coming up. If you're interested in volunteering, just go ahead and contact us through our websites, and we'll hook you up with Frank DiMartino. And we welcome not just experienced birders, but actually beginners. We can always use help. It's a great learning experience for those of you who haven't done it. It's really a good time outdoors. And so that's also next month's program will be Frank DiMartino's Most Wanted Birds in Ventura for the Christmas bird count. So that should be exciting as well. And that one will be live. That one will be at the Poinsettia Pavilion. And we're looking forward to hopefully hearing from you guys again after you successfully completed the purchase of the land, and we can get the debrief from you in the fall.
I love the optimism.
That's who we are. All right, guys. Thanks everybody again, and look forward to seeing everybody next month. Have a good night.
Thanks, you guys.